You're listening to a CNA podcast.
A quick note before we start. There are descriptions of death in this podcast that may be uncomfortable for some people. Listener discretion is advised.
That day, we all went about our routine as per normal. We heard the sound of thunder or a loud explosion coming from the sea.
So when the earthquake started, I panicked.
It started with one or two people running. We were confused. The people running were saying, "Run, let's go. The water is coming. The water is coming."
Then come around 50 or 80 meters, the wave strong like a cobra.
I saw the wave rise up. It was big and black like a mountain.
It was sweeping shops and people in its path. People were shouting at us to run, but where to? The distance between the beach and the town was only 700 meters, and there was nowhere to go.
The sea is a giver of food and a way to travel. The sea is witness to a child's joy or a lover's promise. The sea is life. From villages in India to beach resorts and coastal communities across Malaysia, Indonesia, and Thailand. But on the 26th of December 2004, the sea was a thief and it stole mercilessly. Today, 20 years on, the image of an angry, black, towering mass descending from the skies is still deeply etched in the minds of those who witnessed its power. The stories you will hear are from people whose lives are forever altered. The stories of grief that never go away. You are listening to The Waves That Changed Us, Asian Tsunami 20 Years On, a special two-part CNA podcast. On the morning of Boxing Day 2004, on Christmas weekend, a magnitude 9.1 earthquake erupts deep in the Indian Ocean. It's one of the strongest ever recorded in history.
I went fishing and waited for a while. Then I heard a loud noise. It's like thunder or lightning.
Thai fisherman Wimon Tongte lives in the seaside village of Ban Nam Kem, an hour-and-a-half drive from Phuket. It's like any other day for him and his brother as they head out to fish in the Andaman Sea. There are, however, signs that this is anything but a normal day.
I wondered what the sound was. There was no wind or rain. The sound was loud. I looked left, looked right. I saw fish everywhere in the sea. It looked like these fish had been hit by an explosion or something like that. But there were no waves yet. Some fishermen started scooping from the fishing net from the side of the boat. I saw that the fish were floating everywhere.
What followed was something he had never seen before.
I saw the wave rise up. It was big and black, like a mountain. I shouted to my brother to quickly turn off the boat's engine. I then turned the boat around and charged towards the wave.
Years of being in the open sea taught the experienced fisherman that his best chance of survival is to steer his boat back into the choppy waters.
I knew that if I headed towards the shore, I wouldn't survive. The waves would make the boat crash into the trees or rocks. So I decided to go against the tide.
Wimon's instincts saved his life. But what he didn't know then was that the cataclysmic tsunami he saw reached as high as 30 meters in some places, stretching across Indonesia, Malaysia, India, Sri Lanka, and even as far away as East Africa. the final death toll, more than 225,000 lives. In Khao Lak district, where Wimon's village is in, around 4,000 lives are lost. That's more than half of the people who died from the tsunami in Thailand. His house, along with half of his village, is swept away by the waves. And among the missing, 2-year-old Nong Pim, Wimon's daughter.
I walked for 3 days around the village, looking for my child, hoping she was still alive. But I never found her. I couldn't sleep. I walked till my body couldn't take it anymore, and I passed out along the road.
Forensic experts later identified Nong Pim's body. At the edge of the village sits the Ban Nam Kem Tsunami Memorial Park. A long wall curved like a wave bears the names of the victims, including Nong Pim. Some plaques have pictures of little children still stuck on them, a reminder for those left behind.
It's hard to explain. It's like wanting to be close to my child, but when I visit this memorial, I'm deceiving myself. It's just like when I put the photo of my child on my bed, I'm fooling myself. I'm still confused. I also used to keep photos that the forensic department took of her body. They were not pretty, but I still kept them and looked at them. Then one day, I threw them in the trash. The rubbish truck came to collect the trash. I quickly ran to retrieve the discarded photos. I wanted to forget, but it also hurt to do so.
I think he is confronted with the reality that she never got to live her life. She never got to become an adult. And I think that's something that still haunts him till today.
Having spent a few days with Wimon recently in Thailand, CNA producer Charles Pang saw how the fisherman still struggles with his loss.
He still has nightmares when certain memories trigger flashbacks or trigger trauma. It really overwhelms him and he turns to drinking in order to sleep. His wife, until today, still has to see a psychiatrist. The psychiatrist has prescribed medication for her, but she refuses to take it because she's afraid that it will make her addicted.
Charles visited Thailand as part of his CNA TV documentary, The Waves That Changed Us. It's a 4-part series which commemorates the 20th anniversary of the tragic day. When Wimon mentioned that he regularly visits the memorial park, Charles asked to see it together.
I remember we were filming a scene of Wimon visiting the memorial where there's a plaque dedicated to his daughter. When he got off his motorbike, within 5 minutes, he told us that, "I want to leave now. This is too painful." He just left. And that night he couldn't sleep.
The grief still haunts the people of Ban Nam Kem village and its province Khao Lak. And what struck Charles was how the smallest details can trigger waves of bad memories.
You will not hear any sirens from ambulances or even police cars. And I later found out that there was an unwritten rule that emergency vehicles could only flash their lights, they could not turn on their sirens.
Local politician Maitri Jungkraijuk explains why.
When ambulances sound their sirens, it still triggers panic attacks among villagers. Some even faint. There were more of such cases in the early days after the tsunami. It's better now, but they still ask for sirens not to be turned on.
Away from the village, in the tourist haven of Khao Lak, happy holiday goers didn't know what hit them until the tsunami passed. Images of dead bodies on the streets, damaged night markets and bars, and submerged vehicles dominated the TV screens for days. The world watched in horror. Tourists like Dan Heller describe what it's like on scene.
There were so much people losing fingers, losing arms, and every people were looking for surviving friends or family members.
It took 2 years for resorts to reopen and for the tourists to come back again. It was a huge blow to Thailand's tourism industry.
It's not a memory that we want to remind ourselves of every year. Even though it indeed happened here, we really want to forget it because it's an event that makes us unhappy.
That's Jirapa Lukkutana. She has been working in the hospitality sector for nearly 30 years, and she was here when the tsunami hit.
Sometimes I get nightmares, and it may be because I'm sleeping near the sea or working by the sea. Once, when I was in Koh Samui, I dreamt that the water rose up to the windows, and I ran up to the top of the building. It felt like I was reliving the tsunami and escaping the water. Then, I woke up with a toothache.
Jirapa has worked in several hotels in Khao Lak, including a few that were destroyed by the tsunami.
In the past 20 years, the hotels have been renovated. They have accomplished great achievements, but still, business may not be good because of the legacy of the tsunami. We do not want to remind tourists of it. It's not a good thing. The Samudra Devi is known as the Ocean Queen. Because the train makes the journey from Colombo, the capital of Sri Lanka, to Matara, taking a scenic sea route down south. On this holiday weekend, about 1,500 paid passengers were on board. As is usually the case, many more unticketed people hopped on too. When the train pulls into the village of Perelia, it is about 9:30 a.m.
I noticed the traffic signal turned red.
Train guard Wanigaratne Karunatileke was on duty. His job is to ensure the safety of both passengers and cargo.
So I instructed the driver to slow down as per our usual practice. As there was no obstruction, we were prepared to proceed with caution. That's what I decided to do.
It's a decision Wanigaratne regrets to this day. The first wave hits.
Then suddenly a wave swept close to us. It was like some water overflowed from somewhere. Then more water came flooding into the train, which made my pants wet. I even saw refrigerators floating outside through the window along with other household items.
Passengers rushed to the roof, hanging on for dear life.
I saw a girl floating towards the train, clinging to a fallen tree. There was another boy, about 12 years old, holding on to a part of a gate. I rolled up my pants and helped them get into the train.
Then there's an odd 15-minute lull. But in the chaos, no one knew that this was a precious chance before the next big wave arrives.
At the time, we had not even heard of the word tsunami. Had I known what it was, I could have saved half of those lives. God gave us 15 minutes to evacuate to a safe place. Between the first and second waves, we actually had enough time to escape. We could even have gotten away on foot, but at that time we assumed they were just ordinary waves. If we had known more about tsunamis, we could have saved more lives.
With limited options, the train guard made the call to have everyone stay on board. Minutes later, survivors describe an enormous cliff face of water charging towards the train. The impact tears the carriages off the tracks.
With that second wave, the entire train was enveloped by water. Then I heard a very strange noise. For at least a month after the incident, I could still hear that sound. I would wake up from my sleep, frightened. I was so traumatized by that sound. When the water hit the carriages, even though they were very big, the bolts holding them together came off. The carriage I was in split open. It fell apart, so did the floor.
Wanigaratne pulls nearly 100 survivors from the wreckage. Almost 2,000 people lost their lives in the train tragedy. About half of the bodies are still not recovered. The Ocean Queen disaster remains one of Sri Lanka's deadliest railway accidents. Today, Wanigaratne continues to share his survival story in hopes that others may learn from his mistakes and be better prepared for the next tsunami.
Today, we have measures in place to stop trains during a natural disaster and protocols to evacuate people to safety. Overall, people are more aware now about what to do during a tsunami. The government also has more ways to educate and inform the public. People feel stronger now that they are equipped with the knowledge of how to respond to such a disaster.
Yet, for every loss, there is at least one story of mercy and miracles. On the Malaysian state of Penang lies the tranquil and secluded Miami Beach. An unlikely name for a place thousands of kilometers from the US. But this Miami Beach holds a dark past. On 26 December 2004, when the sea engulfed neighboring countries, 1-month-old Tulasi Supaya is napping peacefully. Her father, Supaya Alagapan, watches over her as she lays on a mattress at her family's beachside restaurant and home. At 1 p.m., the deafening silence of that lazy Sunday afternoon breaks. The sound you're listening to is from video caught on that day.
Then come around 50 or 80 meters, the wave strong like a cobra. Then I started to run to save my family. 1 second, the wave already damaged to my restaurants, everything. And then I couldn't find my daughter.
The waves that hit Malaysia climbed to almost 4 meters in height. More than 67 people lost their lives, including 37 on Miami Beach. Supaya takes stock of his family. His wife and their elder daughter are still alive. But baby Tulasi is nowhere to be found, and he is frantic.
After 1 hour, and Indonesian workers beside the bungalow, they're shouting to me, "Ana aptai tilam, ana aptai tilam." The baby on the mattress.
Supaya rushes out and can't believe his eyes. There she is, baby Tulasi, still on the mattress. The sky-high waves that brought her out into the horizon returned her safely back to shore. Today, this miracle baby who survived the wrath of Mother Nature is a 20-year-old accountancy undergraduate.
I could have died at that moment, but the fact that I'm alive here has made me more grateful. But it's something like I should live for them also, I should live my life well. It's an opportunity given for me, a second chance.
Although Supaya is thankful to have his daughter back, the tsunami wiped out a year's worth of supplies for his restaurant. 20 years on, he still doesn't have enough money to fully repair his house.
I feel very sad. I scolding Mother Nature. You destroy my restaurants, everything. That time I am panicked. After all, I am a human being. I didn't realize you saved my 2 daughters, my wife, and 2 staff. All the customers survived. Then later, I realized I say sorry to the Mother Nature.
This year, on the 20th anniversary of the tsunami, Tulasi will again join her parents at the beach in a special ritual. They will be there to honor the 67 who died in Malaysia, but also to give thanks to Mother Nature who spared her life.
I would continue this ritual even when I'm older. It's something like a responsibility that was given to me. From my father, it will pass down to me and my sister because she's a tsunami survivor as well. I'm pretty sure we will both do it together even when we are older, and our kids will do it as well.
The Asian tsunami of 2004 has been recorded as one of the most devastating in human history. More than 225,000 lives lost. Most of the bodies were never recovered. Scores of loved ones who survived the ordeal still live with the scars of the tragedy, some more visible than others. But it also revealed the enormous capacity of people to pick up the broken pieces and rebuild their lives. In the next episode, we tell these stories of transformation.
Tapi kemudian ketika tsunami,
when the tsunami hit Aceh, it was a catalyst, opening up even greater opportunities for women to occupy public spaces, to fill positions that were usually only filled by men.
I know it sounds very simple, a young lady opening a cafe, but actually it's a huge deal because many years ago you would not see any females in the coffee shops. Females were confined to the home or the markets, and you would not see females out at night either. It was just not done.
This episode was written and produced by Tiffany Ang, narrated by Yasmin Yonkers, and edited by Crispina Robert. Sound mixing by Ken Delbridge. This podcast is adapted from the CNA documentary The Waves That Changed Us, a 4-part series on the 20th anniversary of the Asian tsunami. It is available on the CNA YouTube channel.